Take two. Okay, so my partners and I, we did the inquiry research on unethical behavior in education. My class. So why do we even study unethical behavior? Well, we educate and we guide the children, and they see us as their role models. And down here, they kind of see us as like their school mommies. So it's really important that we help them, that they can be led astray really easily. And that's why we sent our kids to a Christian school, because we know that. And, we have teachers here that are going to guide them and lead them in the way that they should go. And they're at a very important stage in their lives where they're deciding what's right and what's wrong and what their beliefs are. So it makes me feel good that they're in a place where teachers are going to guide them and have the same kind of values that I have. So it's good to study what's right and what's wrong in your field. Get this going. There we go. Oop, it went on over here. There we go. So our kids are not old enough to have Facebook or any social networking, but with the older students, it's the benefits. You can improve communication with your students and with your parents, and you can participate collaboratively together. You can promote creativity and problem solving. And you can help the kids navigate through the digital world with supervision and teach them what's ethical. And then you can also support struggling students. And you do that with your parents, really. I mean, our Facebook and what you use can help keep your parents informed. And you can get more creative with things, because if you open up to your communication, you can do more things with your kids even though they're younger. So some of the disadvantages of it, though, is that it kind of opens up an opportunity for inappropriate communications between a teacher and a student. And I'm sure that you have found this, where friending, even parents, sometimes it kind of makes your relationship with them different and makes it more personal. You're in each other's personal lives now. And your posts are always under scrutiny, and I think we've realized that in some of the things, like making a comment about something that's going on in school, and you're under scrutiny sometimes by administrators or coworkers or parents. So those are some of the disadvantages of it. Technology doesn't like me today. Let's try this side. I'll just keep this nearby. There we go. So when you're doing social networking, these are just some of the restrictions that some districts have placed on their teachers, is just don't friend students, because sometimes that messes up that teacher-student relationship and puts you on a friend level, and you don't need to be that. I'm your teacher. So also, they just say when you're doing it, just post the curricular related things, and don't get on that personal level. And just don't post anything that would be questionable or cause a stir. And then the thing is though, with these restrictions, is that you guys as teachers, you have First Amendment rights. Like, you have the right to, to the freedom of speech. So, but there's just sometimes, because we are in the position that we are, you just have to be careful about what you put on there, and what you decide to comment on, and what you think is important enough to spread out to the whole world. So some of the guidelines that they suggested in our research was that the educators, just remember that you are influential, and that you are considered a role model, and that we do live by a code of ethics. Then just keep in mind when you're making a post that you're maintaining the integrity and the dignity that our position upholds. Also, just keep in mind that anything that you post that might be controversial or cause or stir, that it could take away from your effect on the learning, and you don't want to ever disrupt what school's all about, and that's learning. Some other suggestions is that you should just use your technology as a learning tool. Let's see. And that you should just keep to communicating just school-related things. These are things that will keep you out of the hot seat. And do no questionable or unprofessional posts, like don't go online and do a rant. And then just try to maintain a positive influence. I know that administrators like me, if, like, say I received information that there was a negative post or something, that administrators should not just hop to conclusions and react and overreact. That they should always just investigate. A lot of times after you've investigated, you realize it really wasn't that big of a deal, or that they were within their First Amendment rights in what they posted, and then you just keep a stir from happening, by not overreacting or reacting too quickly. Then the second part of our inquiry was cheating on high-stakes standardized testing. And when I went through this, it made me so glad that we're a private school and that we don't have the pressures that our fellow teachers and administrators have to put up with. I know my sister, she teaches in a Title I school, and her life is a whole lot different than mine. And it makes me very thankful for mine. But there has been a rash of cheating, and we're used to hearing about kids cheating and always telling kids, don't cheat and do your own work. And now it's the teachers are doing it, and even administrators, because of the pressures that have been placed upon them. Not that it's good, and I think there are some things that could be done to prevent this. But for the first time now, we're talking about teachers cheating instead of kids cheating. Either way, though, it's not right. In fact, in Atlanta in 2015, there was about 11 teachers who were sentenced to, some of them 5 to 20 years because of them cheating. And then when Georgia did a big, well, I think that's next on the next slide. No, here it is right here. They decided to investigate and found 200 teachers who had falsified scores. And some people felt like those teachers were treated unfairly and that the media made them look like they were criminals. In fact, some of their sentencing was more harsh than someone who was a rapist. And so they felt like maybe that was a little too harsh. And however, all the hoopla over what they did overshadowed the deeper problem, which is what's next on the next slide, is that what drove them to that. They didn't go to school and become a teacher thinking I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna make my scores look better. No one ever comes into your profession thinking about that. So when you started reading, it kind of told you a little bit more about it. How did they cheat? They would, because it's done with pencils, they changed some of the answers and erased it and put in the right answer to make their scores look better. They, some of them provided answers to the students before the test happened. They didn't give them a cheat sheet at the test, but they were kind of given a heads up on what was going to be on there. Some of them, if there were suspicions, they just didn't pursue it. Just, I don't want to hear it. They didn't look. Then some of them were just denying that there was cheating, even though they knew. And then when the investigation started, they might obstruct it a little bit to keep it from happening. So those were how they were cheating. But why they cheated, there were several things that might have brought them to it. For example, in 2001, the No Child Left Behind Act sounded really good, and I think Bush had really good intentions when he did the act, just to try to raise the bar as far as education goes. And but it has put a lot of pressure on students and to perform, because their promotion, they won't get to move to the next grade if they don't do well on that test. And it doesn't even matter if that didn't match what you saw in the classroom. Their promotion to the next grade was all dependent on that test. And then some of the pressure was from the teacher success. Their job security, they could be fired if they consistently had low scores. And then your amount of money, your pay, was determined by how well you did on the test. So there's just a lot of pressure put on the teachers and the students to do this. One, because you want what's best for your students, and two, because you kind of want what's best for you too. Which the No Child Left Behind, all the pressures on it, drove everybody to teach to the test. So the majority of the school year is spent, my sister does this, majority of the school year is spent getting them ready for this test that's happening in April. And then, so then the curriculum is very narrowed at that point. They're just focusing on what they think will be on the test, on the reading and the writing, comprehension. They kind of ignore the science and the social studies, and then like all the arts get pushed to the side, and even like PE and recess will be dropped because they're preparing for the test, and which is not very good for the kids, and it doesn't give them a very well-rounded education either. This is true. My sister, they're coming up on the test. They live in Texas, and so they take, it's called STAR, and it's a Texas test, and it's very high stakes like this one is. And she has spent the whole year preparing her class to take this test. And she has several that have English as a second language, and they're held to the same. Texas did lower the standard for those who don't speak English at all when they first come in. They give them a few years to acclimate, but the pressures are really high. In fact, my sister, after the grades are posted, her class average of how they did on the test will be posted in the Amarillo newspaper for everyone to see. Some alternatives to teaching for the test would just be to implement a well-rounded curriculum like we do. And because we're a private school, we have that freedom, and I love that we have that freedom, and that we can, when we graduate our kids or when we're done with that school year, we know that they have experienced everything, not just things that would be on a test. And then another thing is that I think that we should invest and strengthen the teachers that we have, help them improve their skills and their abilities, and then provide adequate resources, and then just develop a continuous improvement plan, which that's part of our, to be accredited anyway, is to have a continuous improvement plan. I know that Dr. Davis, he wants to get like a leadership team for each building, for each school, and work on those things that were as a result of our survey that we took, and let that be a team that happens every year, and people flow in and out of it, and then they're part of helping our school be better and improve, and it'll be continuous all the time. So experts warned against the heavy testing. It was some time back. They said that this would not be good. They even said it will narrow your curriculum, and the teachers will start teaching to the test. And they were right. They were prophetic. So to reduce cheating for the teachers is that I guess you do need to continue to, that if they cheat, there has to be a consequence. So they need to continue to be prosecuted and convicted. And then they just need to probably increase the testing oversight. The teachers in Atlanta were caught erasing and changing the grades. So, and then you need to have a score variation for those that are English as a second language, and those that live in, like in Amarillo, there's a huge group. I think they're from Taiwan, and a lot of them, none of them speak English, and so they need to have lower standards because they hardly speak English. You can't expect them to do like what the English-speaking kids can do. And then you need to let the teacher evaluation, like how good of a teacher they are, not be based on that standardized test. And that the teacher's salary doesn't need to be based on the testing score. You need to lay some of the pressure off of the teachers so that it doesn't drive them or even think about cheating. And need to stop teaching for the test and allow teachers to do what they do best, and to teach and to do what they feel is what's best for the students. Then help that if they're caught cheating, they lose their funding, or it's completely that person who cheated may be terminated. And then let more than just a test determine if a child is going to be promoted or not. It should be based on what the teacher sees in the classroom. How are they doing on the report card? There's a bunch of ways to determine if a child is succeeding in the classroom or not. And we've seen that with our early literacy. We'll look at the test and we're like, oh, they're doing way better than that. They just didn't have a good test day, or they might just say that they just didn't feel good that day. They just want a good test day, and maybe they just don't do well on tests that are on the iPad. So the conclusion is that our students deserve to have a safe, quality education, and they deserve to have success and feel successful, and they need to be able to acquire knowledge for life, make them a well-rounded student. So I'm supposed to allow some, here are all my references. There's several pages of them if you're interested. So anybody have anything like just to add to that as far as like how you think about it and just your thoughts? First of all, about the social networking, how you also have that right to free speech, and then to the standardized testing, teaching to the test. Do you feel like we do that any at all, that we are like, I feel like we're providing a well-rounded education for these kids because we've been given the freedom to do that. But anybody have anybody in the public schools that you've seen like I have seen with my sister?
Well, I've taught in public and private, so I guess I can kind of chime in a little bit. They do, private school, you are very well-rounded. You get a little bit of everything, whereas once you hit 3rd grade into public school, no more fun stuff. They teach the test. Mm-hmm. Your life is over. I'm serious. That's how it goes.
Right. Yeah. And, you've got to have, kids don't want to go to school if it's not fun. And I feel like you still have an obligation for the curriculum to be rigorous, but sometimes making it fun and meaningful takes time. And if you're teaching to the test, you don't have time. Mm-hmm. So after my sister's class, after the whole school, after they finish that test, they finish out the last 2 or 3 weeks of the school year doing the things they wish they could have done. Like the teachers and the kids look forward to those last 3 or 4 weeks of school, because then they get to learn about science and social studies and the other things that they had to leave out before. Mm-hmm. So do you feel did you ever feel frustrated because of that? You were 2nd grade.
I was 2nd grade, so I didn't have the pressure, but talking to those other teachers, they had a lot of pressure. And so when you talk about cheating, of course that's terrible, but I understand that is the government is leading the teachers to do that, because it's on the teacher if their kids do not do well, and that's not right.
Right.
A lot of kids don't test well.
Yeah.
And I understand why they test at some point, because teachers can put what they want on a report card, whereas state test, well, some teachers can put what they want on that too, but state test does have accreditation, each state, there's positives and negatives to both.
Right.
But
I don't think you need to count on one
test,
just
not,
one
right.
completely, one assessment of
Mhm.
a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's just putting your well-being in the hands of someone else, especially a little kid. It's like my job, my life, my everything revolves on someone else. It's not anything really I do. I don't have control whether you look at me and think, yeah, she's did a good job or not.
Yeah.
It's all in the hands of someone else
Mhm.
that may not have slept well that night, may not
yes,
have
didn't
ate
eat
something that
breakfast,
morning,
didn't
or
get supper last night.
didn't get their medication that morning. So
Yes.
that just seems completely wrong to put
Mm-hmm.
everything in the hands of someone else that has nothing to do
Right.
with me, and it's my job.
Yeah, when that No Child Left Behind Act, you have a school has 5 years to kind of turn things around. And if they don't turn things around, then they invite an outsider to come in and try to fix it. During that 5 years, they bring in an outsider to try to fix it. And then on that 5th year, it's like they'll close the school down, and they spread out the kids, they fire the teachers, and that's not good. And so if you're on that 5th year and you're a teacher, like let's say you're a single mom and your livelihood depends on that paycheck, they might go in there with an eraser and change some answers. I can see that pressure doing that to them, and it doesn't excuse it, but
And there is that. I taught 4th grade in the public schools, and I mean, we didn't always get to science and social studies every day. We might hit it once or twice a week, and it's just not fun. You can't do anything fun. I have so much more freedom to teach the kids the way that I think is best for them. I can go at a different pace, and I don't feel like I have to cram everything in before a 9, because in the city where I taught, City, we had to give local standardized testing. So we all had to stay on the same pace. Well, not every child is on the same pace, which goes back to No Child Left Behind, and some of the bad parts of that. No 2 children are going to be the same and learn at the same pace.
it doesn't allow for reteaching.
No.
Or I'm sorry you didn't get that. We got to move on.
Yeah. And it puts a lot of pressure on. I mean, we at the end of the day, our meetings we were all miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing what you went to school to do, what you want to do, what's in your heart. You're just showing up, doing the best you can, and going home and hoping that it was enough.
I think like a teacher should get to do what they want to teach, even in the public schools. Like I think that things can get better, in that if the federal government has put their fingers into education through by providing money to like Title I schools, for example, because the government gave you money, you have all this documentation and you have stipulations in order to have that money. So, but I just think like something can be done. We can get off this train. Just need to get those people that are up there high in the government to listen to teachers. And I think there's hope for it. It doesn't always have to be that way. So, anyway, thank you for listening. Appreciate it. It was an interesting topic, and I'm glad I got to share it with you.
Thank you.